The A's are shell-shocked in Sacramento, and the Giants are flying high back to San Francisco. That's next on Curveballs and Changeups, a baseball podcast straight out of Sacramento. I'm Steve Harmon, and this is a podcast for Giants and A's fans, and baseball fans in general. No straight fastballs here, folks, just a bunch of off-speed pitches to keep the hitters off balance. Maybe a few cutters and some riding heat just to keep you honest. Just a little bit about myself. I played the game. I once hit a grand slam home run in an over 30 baseball league. Sure, it was off a 46-year-old airline pilot, and the wind was blowing out, but I got a good swing on it and sent it over the left field wall, 360 feet out. I covered the Hum Baby Giants and the Bash Brother A's as a sports writer in the 80s and 90s. I've been a baseball fan since 1967 when the kid down the block introduced me and my brothers to the Giants. And in 1969, my dad took me to my first Major League game at the Oakland Coliseum to watch the A's. Hence, a podcast for both teams. Who says you can only root for one of them? All right, let's start with the A's. A tough way to start their Sacramento tenure. A's were outscored by the Cubs 35-9 in a rude 3-game visit to Sutter Health Park. They were out-homered 9-4. Seiya Suzuki had 4 of them himself. Attendance was not at capacity as I thought it would be. Apparently, the novelty of a major league team in their home confines wears off after a bad first impression. They drew 12,119 in the opener, then 10,095, and then 9,342. Mark Kotze was, as always, stand-up as he assessed the sweep. Quote, "It was a tough series all around. We came in from Seattle feeling pretty good. We got outplayed. That's a good team. They're an athletic team. Put pressure on you on the bases." Let me stop right there. Do you remember when during the 18-3 loss, Pete Crow Armstrong was called out on a bang-bang play at second late in the game after he raced to beat the force play, and then how the Cubs challenged the call and won? That's the mentality they have. Crow Armstrong said it even before the Cubs came to town. He said, quote, "That's been the big talk during spring training, making base running a part of this team's identity. It's just important to be able to take advantage of outs that may not be outs." Forget about the Cubs being the opposing team for a moment and rubbing it in the dirt a little bit with that challenge with an 18-3 lead. But this is good for baseball. Aggressive base running can change a game. It injects energy and creates opportunities. It's exciting for fans, and it's infectious. Unfortunately, the A's have not made that part of their game. They have 0 stolen bases and were fairly inactive on the base paths in spring training. Continuing with Kotze's quote about the Cubs, "It's a tough team to strike out," he said. "They work deep counts and foul pitches off, as you saw with Springs, who got his pitch count to 80 after 3 innings. We'll learn a lot from this series." Kotze was referring to Jeffrey Springs, the lefty who lost the series finale. Now, I wanted to refer you to an ESPN story that I highly recommend. Writer Tim Keown described the scene in West Sacramento for the opening series brilliantly. Quote, "The crowds were mostly quiet. The numerous Cubs fans were noisy until it felt mean. But the A's fans, when they found something cheerworthy, reacted as if they were cheering for someone else's kid at a piano recital. As first impressions go, it could have been better." Keown's story gets into some of the adjustments players will have to make with some of the accommodations at the ballpark, which is basically a AAA ballpark, like the long walk to the clubhouses. Luis Severino was quoted about talking about making sure he brought his jacket and even some notes that he uses for the game from the clubhouse because he knew he wouldn't be able to get to them during the game if he hadn't brought them. And, of course, there's that awkward arrangement where the A's will be sharing the stadium with AAA Sacramento River Cats, the Giants farm team. As Keown described, quote, "It's kind of like a senior rooming with a freshman. The senior has dibs on just about everything, but he still has to deal with a roommate." I mean, the story wasn't all tongue-in-cheek, and it was a fairly serious look at what Sacramento was dealing with as they've inherited a team that is supposedly on its way in 3 years at least to Las Vegas, the placeholder status that Sacramento seems to have. The weather was crazy the entire 3 games, cold and windy in Sacramento. Night games in the summer, though, they'll be hot, and it'll be more like baseball weather. And I've been to a lot of Sacramento games when the ball is not flying all over the place like it was in this series. This may have been an aberration. As you know, the Delta breezes may have the opposite effect of what we just saw. They could knock down some of those long fly balls, and they'll actually cool the park down. But right now, pitchers seem snake bit. They tried to throw the perfect pitch every time, and when you do that, you make mistakes. But they did see the other team hold their hitters to 9 runs over 3 games, so they know it can be done. The A's never had a lead in that Cubs series. Let me say here what I said in the last episode, that I like to do these breakdowns of individual games because a baseball season is a series of blurs. There's a very little time to reflect on games because we're always on to the next game and the next and the next. I just think it's important to stop and reflect on what we've just seen. This allows us to put the next set of games into context. Also, let me say that I'm coming off a cold, so I'm hoping I don't sneeze or hack into the microphone as I do this. Okay, let's do the breakdown. There was only one point in the series where the A's seemed competitive, early in Game 2 on Tuesday. They fell behind immediately, 3-0 on a 3-run homer, but got 2 runs back in the bottom of the first when Lawrence Butler opened with a single and Brent Rooker followed with a homer. The Cubs scored 2 more in the top of the third, but the A's got those 2 runs right back on a Shea Langalier's 2-run homer. So it was 5-4 after 3 innings. Looked competitive. That's as competitive as it got during the entire series. The Cubs then loaded the bases off starter Luis Severino in the next inning with no outs. But Severino minimized the damage by allowing just 1 run on a sacrifice fly to make it 6-4. Severino showed his veteran chops. I call him Savvy Sevy, with his workhorse effort to keep the Cubs off the board over the next 2 innings. I loved it when he reached 100 pitches. He looked over to Kotze in the dugout and mouthed, "I got this," and put his hand up, just reassuring him that he was good. And he got the final out on a line drive. His 107 pitches are the most thrown by a pitcher in the major leagues this year. Kotze is a big Sevy fan. For Sevy to go 6 innings tonight the way the bullpen is, I thought it was a gutsy performance staying out there. That's obviously a guy that's a great teammate and a great leader. In the series finale, Jeffrey Springs had been so good in his first start, 6 shutout innings. But Wednesday he lasted only 3 innings, out after 82 pitches. He allowed the leadoff hitter to get on all 3 innings. Rooker's 2-run home run, again with Butler on base ahead of him, put the A's back in it at 5-2. But reliever Mitch Spence gave it right back up the next inning, Cubs scoring 3 runs to take an 8-2 lead, and the romp was on. And remember, of course, I may have kind of skimmed over the first game. It was 18-3 in the opener, just an utter disaster. Other notes from the opening series: Jacob Wilson, the shortstop, the rookie, showing like he looks like a natural. He leads the A's with 9 hits and has a .375 batting average. MLB.com's Martin Gallego still declares in his one takeaway for the A's this week that Jacob Wilson, quote, might really hit 300. The player comp to Luis Arias, who's the 3-time batting champion, might not be premature for Wilson, who hit .401 across his minor league career. Of course, that was in only about 275 at-bats. But his crazy bat-to-ball skills shows it in the strikeout zone. He has yet to strike out in 20 plate appearances. His high school teammate and double play partner Max Muncy, though, has had a rough start. He's 3 for 23 with 9 strikeouts. Tyler Soderstrom is hitting .296 with 3 homers, though he did not hit a single home run at home. Brent Rooker showed off his power bat at home with 2 of his 3 home runs. We're still waiting for Lawrence Butler to break out. He's 4 for 24. It's a .167 batting average, though he's walked 5 times and struck out only 3 times. Gio Urshela, the third baseman, has yet to make a presence. He's 2 for 18 with no walks, but he's a veteran .272 lifetime hitter. He's hit over .285 in a season 4 times. He'll come around. And don't sleep on reliever Jose Leclerc. Of course, everybody remembers his debut when he gave up 2 home runs to lose the season opener, but he's had 2 scoreless outings since then. That brought his ERA down from just a crazy 81.00 to a less crazy 11.57. Yes, he's allowed 5 base runners in those 2 innings since, but he did not allow them to score. I think he'll be good. The pitching so good in Seattle now has a team ERA of 5.46. The bullpen really took a hit. They've given up 19 earned runs in just 24 and a third innings. That's a 7.03 ERA. Starters have a 4.42 ERA, and that was after having less than 2 ERA in Seattle. And the hitters haven't helped so much. They've hit .219 and have an on-base percentage of .283. So, what's next for the A's? Colorado. Who knew a team would be desperate to leave home to get to Colorado? But the A's are going from cool and windy to flat out cold in Denver. It's expected to be in the low 40s for the first two games, and maybe even get into the 30s toward the end of the Saturday game. But it'll warm up to the mid 50s for Sunday. Now, I did take a look at what the Rockies are up to, and they have had a tough go, tougher than the A's. They're coming home from a tough opening road trip, losing 5 of 6 games, and will be flying in from Philadelphia after being swept by the Phillies today. They've been outscored 24-11 in the first games. Rockies' starting pitchers look great. They've got a 1.35 ERA in 33 and a third innings. The bullpen is what was terrible about that road trip for them. They coughed it up in 3 of their 4 losses, own a 9.76 ERA in 15 and 2/3 innings. If you take a look at how the bullpen was used and how the starting pitchers were managed, I would say it was an example of overmanaging and extreme caution by Rockies manager Bud Black, who looks like just another manager, hemmed in by the analytics myth that the 100-pitch count is somehow the key to success. Their season opener against the Rays, Kyle Freeland, was shutting out the Rays through 6 innings, had a 2-0 lead, but was taken out after 67 pitches. Of course, the bullpen coughs up 3 runs over the next 2 innings, and they lose 3-2. Black took out his starter, Ryan Felter, in the second game after 5 innings and 83 pitches in a 2-2 tie, but his bullpen gave up 4 runs in the 6th. They lost to the Rays 6-4. And in their first game against the Phillies on Monday, Rockies were up 1-0 in the 7th inning. Bud Black takes out his starter, German Marquez, after 83 pitches. And, of course, his bullpen gives up 6 runs in the next 2 innings. Stick with your starter. The moral of the story for the A's: get to the Rockies' bullpen as early as possible, or just wait until Black panics after 83 pitches from his starters. All right, so here are the matchups. Friday, it's going to be Colorado's home opener, so it's a 1:10 p.m. start Pacific. It'll be cold, and it's going to get colder as the afternoon goes on. Osvaldo Bido will be the starter for that one. He pitched through some rough patches, remember, in Seattle in the first start, but had some really good moments, got the win. And then he'll be facing Ryan Feltner, the pitcher that Black pulled after 5 innings and 83 pitches. We'll see how much longer his leash will be against the A's. Saturday, it'll be a 6:10 p.m. start, so it's expected to dip into the 30s in the late innings. J.P. Sears will start for the A's. He was able to avoid Sacramento, and he's coming off a real nice start, though he lost on the only mistake he made on a 2-run home run to Julio Rodriguez. And he'll be facing German Rodriguez, the starter, who was yanked after 6 scoreless innings in his season debut against the Phillies. He's a veteran, longest-serving Rocky pitcher. Been mostly injured, though, for the last 2 years, only 5 games over that time. But he had been a double-digit winner for the Rockies, including a 14-game winner in 2018. And then Sunday, it'll be Joey Estes, who will try to rebound from his nightmare debut in Sacramento in that 18-3 loss. Mark Kotze said that Estes' velocity seemed down in the low 90s. He had a little concern about that, so we'll see if it picks up. Estes gave up 6 runs on 9 hits in 4 innings against the Cubs, which was better than his previous start against the Cubs last year when he gave up 6 runs on 9 hits in 1 inning. And the starting pitcher for the Rockies is to be determined. Excuse me. All right, on to the Giants, who swept 3 from the Astros at the former Enron Minute Maid Stadium. I can't remember what it's currently called. Just a quick peek at the National League West race 1 week in. It's not an actual race yet. Don't tell anybody. But the National League West teams are giving a glimpse to how strong this division may be. The Dodgers have won all 8 games out of the gate. Padres have won all 7 games out of the gate. So it's a good thing the Giants have started out pretty strong too at 5-1, and Arizona is right there at 4-2. Baseball Reference already is projecting the Giants as a wild card team. They actually have the Padres winning the West and have the Dodgers and Diamondbacks in one wild card matchup and the Giants and the Mets in the other. All right, well, let's just stop the season and let's just go to it. All right, here's what's coming up for the Giants. Their home opener. They come home conquering heroes. Well, at least in the mind of some of our enthusiastic fans. I was never a fan of home openers, especially after championship seasons, because there were just so many distractions, and it just felt like the focus wasn't there. And there is a similar mindset in that they are coming home with a lot of success under their belt, and then of course all of the pomp and circumstances that they'll be dealing with before the game. But it's one of those things where the home team is always just a little bit distracted and can fall on their heels a little bit that first game. They'll be playing host to the Seattle Mariners, who we're very familiar with from their opening series with the A's. They split 4 with the A's, and then they lost 2 of 3 to the Tigers, though they did beat Cy Young winner Tariq Skubal in that series finale. So the pitching matchups in the Giants-Mariners game on Friday, it's a 1:35 p.m. start to take care of all those celebrations pregame. And Justin Verlander gets the home opening nod. He went 5 pretty strong innings in Cincinnati and gave up 2 earned runs, got a no decision. And I think it's a pretty special moment for him to be able to get the home opener. And then he'll be facing Bryce Miller, a really good-looking pitcher for the Mariners, who lost his first game to the A's, giving up 3 earned runs in 5 2/3. On Saturday, it'll be a 6 p.m. start with Robbie Ray going, and he was just as good as Verlander in Cincinnati. He got the win, though he almost coughed it up after a pitch clock violation threw him off. Go back to my last episode, and I spoke that a little bit. And then Brian Wu will be starting for the Mariners. He dominated the A's, though he was being outdueled by J.P. Sears late until a Julio Rodriguez 2-run homer gave him the win. And then Sunday, it's an afternoon game, 1 p.m. Jordan Hicks, he was electric in his debut against the Astros. He threw 6 shutout innings, only 1 hit, dominant in a 7-2 win that I'll describe in just a bit. And Seattle has not determined who will pitch in that game yet. Here's some takeaways from the Giants this week. The Giants continued their power surge, but strikeouts remain a problem. They're averaging more than 10 strikeouts a game. They have 11 home runs. Lamont Wade finally got off the schneid with a key blow, a home run, to stem the Astros' momentum in the series finale Wednesday. Wilmer Flores' veteran power bat is carrying the offense. 4 of his 5 hits are home runs. He has 10 of the team's 30 ribbies. He's hitting only .227 and has an OPS of 1,064 because his slugging is .773. Elliot Ramos is right behind him at .727. Maria Guardado of MLB.com featured Flores in her one takeaway from the Giants. Wilmer Flores is back, she wrote. Flores hit only 4 home runs over 71 games while dealing with a nagging right knee injury in 2024, but he's already showing how dangerous he can be when healthy. He's helped the club withstand the loss of designated hitter Gerard Encarnacion, who's expected to miss 2 months after undergoing surgery to repair a fractured left hand. End of quote. And Luis Matos is looking ready to be the star we all thought he might be, but he's got Mike Yastrzemski in front of him, and he continues to have solid at-bats. The San Francisco running game is very dynamic. Yaz had 1 steal, and he and Fitzgerald were about to pull off a double steal, but instead both scored on Elliot Ramos' double in Wednesday's series finale. Another take. Landon Roop, the 5th starter, may not be a lock at the number 5 spot in the rotation. He looked dazzling at first, making big leaguers look feeble on his curve, but he lost command. He may have stuck with that curveball a little bit too long, and he may have lost his focus too after a blown pop-up in front of the plate. Hayden Birdsong finally gets some action. He got 2 innings in that game. I thought Melvin would let him stretch it out for a 4-inning save, maybe get a look at what the 8th and 9th innings might look like. But Melvin just wanted to shut that whole thing down with Tyler Rogers and Camilo Doval to close it down. But Birdsong is still in the wings for the 5th spot. Don't count him out. Randy Rodriguez, he's a mid-game closer. He comes in when you need him in a jam, bases loaded, no outs, wipes out the competition. In the 3rd game, he was rewarded with a scorer's decision to give him the win with the 1 inning he pitched that I'll go over in a second. The Camilo Doval storyline gets interesting. Is Walker still hurt? What a great card to have in your back pocket in Doval if Walker is. Casey Schmidt at first base may be an iffy proposition. He failed to make a play on a hard-hit one-hop liner. First called an error, then a hit. I think it should have been an error. The bottom line is Lamont Wade would have likely turned that Yordan Alvarez hot shot into a double play. Instead, it was a 2-run single and put the Astros right back in the game. All right, let's go back into the series. Game 1 against the Astros. The Giants won 7-2. Wilmer Flores was the hitting hero. He went 2 for 4 with a homer and 4 ribbies. But Jordan Hicks was the show. He came out shooting peas, hitting 99s and 100s in the first inning, 10 of more than 100, which is how many times he did all last year. He did wobble a bit in that first inning, but he got out of a 1st and 3rd jam, and nobody scored. And that was he gave up a hit and a walk in that inning. That was the only hit he gave up. He struck out the side, all looking in the 2nd, painting the black with 98s and 99s, mixing in a sweeper that buckled Jeremy Pena and Mauricio Dubon. Hicks made future Hall of Famer Jose Altuve look like a rookie with a 3-pitch Sia in the 3rd inning, 99 in the corner up, 99 corner up again, then a splitter 90 miles an hour way wide that Altuve swings wildly at for strike 3. It was like that for 6 innings. The only hit he gave up was that 1st inning single. And he wasn't working with much of a margin for error. He was 2-0 through 5 innings, so he had to stay focused. And that was when, in the 6th inning, Wilmer Flores hit that 3-run home run for some breathing room. I want to kind of interject a side note here. The Giants are converting walks into runs at a really nice level. Jung-Hoo Lee and Patrick Bailey had drawn walks and rounded the bases on Flores' Earl Weaver special, the 3-run homer in the 6th inning in Game 1 Monday. In Game 2 of the series Tuesday, they did the same thing. Bailey and Koss walked to lead off the 2nd inning, and both scored on Willie Adames' 2-run double to give Logan Webb a 2-0 lead. And in Game 3 Wednesday, Adames walked ahead of Wilmer Flores' 1st inning home run off of Framber Valdez. And then Yastrzemski and Tyler Fitzgerald both walked right in front of Elliot Ramos' 2-run double. They were both running on a double steal. They would have made it too if you saw their lead. So the Giants are 5-1 despite a team batting average of .201 and an on-base percentage of only .274. They struck out another 15 times on Wednesday. They now have 63 strikeouts, an average of more than 10 a game. But in that series, it was all about timely hitting, key walks, and big home runs. They have 10 home runs in 6 games and great pitching. Their team ERA is 2.72, and they only have walked 15 in 6 games. But back to the Hicks game. Hicks retired 16 of the last 17 hitters he faced. They were 1 for 19 against him. He left after only 72 pitches, 51 of which were strikes. The Mercury News reporter Justice De Los Santos wrote, his start against Houston was a blend of a reliever's heat and a starter's endurance. Hicks added 15 pounds and quit nicotine this offseason. He averaged 98 miles an hour with his sinker. That's about 3.5 miles an hour harder than he averaged last year. And then Bob Melvin on Hicks, quote, that's what he did when he was closing. He's just doing it for a longer period of time. I think one of the things he's figuring out now is just go as hard as you can, long as you can. That's what he's done in the past. Just make sure you're conditioned to pitch deep into the game. I'll have a word on that at the end about maxing out. Still, the bullpen had to cover the last 3 innings, which is what's going to happen if you're going to take them out after, maxing out for 6 innings. The Astros were trying to make a game of it when they scored 2 runs off reliever Spencer Bivens in the 7th inning to cut the lead 5-2, and they had a runner on second with Yordan Alvarez up. Melvin brought in lefty Eric Miller, and Miller threw a clinic at Alvarez. First, a two-seam 98 under his hands for strike one. Then a slider away in the dirt that he swung at wildly for strike two. Remember, this is Alvarez, the World Series hero, the man who is compared to Willie McCovey, wears the number 44 and has got as much power as anybody in the game. He then took the next pitch was another slider away. This time he recognized it, so it's 1-2. And then Miller threw a 99-mile-an-hour two-seamer, low and in, right by Alvarez for strike three, right under his hands. Miller walked off the mound as if he just bagged and mounted his prey. In the Game 2 3-1 Giants win, Logan Webb rebounded from his opening game troubles with 7 strong Tuesday in the Giants' 3-win win over Houston. Excuse me. Yep, I told you I had a cold and a cough. Vintage Webb does what he does. He got 3 double play ground balls. It was really good to see Webb back in form. First of all, he's got a great mustache, so he knows that there are a bunch of great veterans ahead of him or next to him in that rotation, so he's trying to show a little age, so he's got a little mustache going. But more importantly, he had the poise and had his pitches working. So it was vintage Webb for sure. And he was strong to the end. In the bottom of the 7th inning, his last inning, he did give up a leadoff single with the power coming up. Randy Rodriguez got up in the bullpen. Yordan Alvarez stepping up. He worked the count full. At that point, you're thinking if he loses him, that's probably it. But Webb gets Alvarez on a back foot sweeper in the dirt that Alvarez chased for a strikeout. He then went right after power hitter Christian Walker with his 92s up for his 6th strikeout. For some reason, Christian Walker was treating Webb's 92-mile-an-hour fastballs as if it was 99, possibly because he was looking for the changeup. And then Webb got Yanier Diaz to ground out weakly to finish his night. The scoring in that game, only 3 runs, a 2-run double by Adames, who scored the 2 walks ahead of him, and a solo homer by Elliot Ramos. Ramos has extra base hits in the first 6 games, which is right up there with the best in Giants history. And Tyler Rogers and Ryan Walker closed it out. I wanted to give you a quote from Bob Melvin on Webb. Quote, "Guys like him, they're smelling the finish line, so he knows that's probably going to be it for him as far as 7 innings go, which nowadays is kind of a miracle," which I thought was a kind of a funny quote from Melvin. He almost sounded as if he's captive to the analytics department. Oh, never mind. Yep. But he knows where, resuming the quote, but he knows where he is. He knows how to finish games, and he knows he's got a ground ball anytime he needs one. And then Webb on Melvin, quote, "Also, Melvin having the trust in me to go out there in the 7th and face those guys, that's a positive sign. It's a confidence booster for sure." I'm hoping that Webb was trying to slip the message to Melvin that, yes, let him out there later in the game. Let's see how many complete games Logan Webb can have this year. All right, and then the 3rd game, the Giants won 6-3. Landon Roop made his ballyhooed season debut on Wednesday afternoon, but he was gone before he could be credited with a win. I'd say they were mixed results from him. He looked almost unhittable early with his big breaking curveball, but he was gone by the 5th. Melvin yanked him with a 5-1 lead after the Astros loaded the bases with no outs. He committed a cardinal sin. He walked the leadoff hitter, and then there's a blunder. Roop got Altuve to pop weakly in front of the plate, but there was just utter miscommunication. Chapman was playing way too deep to try to get that, but he came racing in from third, and the catcher Sam Huff, the rookie catcher Sam Huff, just seemed like he had no sense of control there. Roop said he heard Huff call for it, and later just said that it was a miscommunication. But either way, the ball landed not untouched because Chapman dove for it and it went off his glove, but it landed for a little single for Altuve, and that seemed to kind of unsettle Roop because he walked Isak Paredes, and that loaded the bases. Oh, that's right. He walked the leadoff hitter. Altuve got on that weak pop-up, and then he walked Isaac Paredes to load the bases. So that was it for Roop. And Melvin brought in Randy Rodriguez, who came in to face Yordan Alvarez, who actually did hit a bullet that Casey Smith couldn't handle at first. It was called an error, later scored as a hit. I'm here to say Lamont Wade would have made that play and possibly gotten a double play out of it. Schmidt was starting at first base for the first time ever in the big leagues. It will be interesting with Flores DHing and Lamont Wade starting at first. Melvin has to decide if he wants to counter move late when opposing managers bring in a lefty to face Wade. If you pinch hit with Schmidt, you're left with a far inferior defender at first base. In a close game, I'd rather take my chances with Wade hitting against a lefty. So back to the game. 2-run score, and the Houston Astros are threatening with the Giants' lead down to 5-3. But Rodriguez turned in another spectacular middle inning relief job by getting a pop out and striking out the last 2 hitters to kill that rally. It was great to see when he got back to the dugout. Justin Verlander just was beside himself, yelling all this encouragement, and the rest of the dugout, of course, was too. That was a big time job. So so you had a big time job by Eric Miller and then Randy Rodriguez. So you can say that the middle relief has been really good for the Giants. Of course, Roop's job was made easier when the Giants came out swinging early. Wilmer Flores staked the Giants to an early 2-0 lead in the first inning with his 4th home run of the year, a 2-run blast off lefty Framber Valdez, who does not give up that many home runs, was just coming off 7 scoreless innings against the Mets. But Flores, he has a knack. First of all, he's a really smart hitter and patient hitter. There was one pitch, a fastball right down the middle, and I thought, what is he doing? But the next pitch was a changeup, and that's the pitch he was waiting for, and he jumped on it for the home run. He is sneaky, sneaky smart. And then the Giants got up 5-0 in the second after Luis Matos' first home run of the year. And it's really interesting sign to see. I mean, if he's going to continue to play the way he is, I mean, he started out really strong early. It'll be an interesting choice for Melvin to make with Mike Yastrzemski out there in right field, who's doing a great job himself. And then Ramos had his 2-run double in that very same inning that we described earlier. And that was the 6th straight game he's had an extra base hit, as I said, tying Felipe Alou for most of the start of the season. So he has a chance to break that record in San Francisco on Friday. I think it was a relief for the Giants to see Lamont Wade's good swings rewarded. He was hitting line drive after line drive, caught. Dwayne Kuiper, Mike Krukow was just talking about it, that great swing he has, and that Giants batting coaches had tried to encourage him to stay with the swing, not to worry about it, and then he steps up and hits a pinch hit home run of the 8th inning, which was actually a very important add-on run, and less important, it stopped his 0-for-16 slide. And for the second time on the road trip, Melvin went to Doval to close. Camilo Doval got 3 outs in the 9th with help again from Ramos, who made his second diving catch in a Doval appearance. Ryan Walker is still the closer. He may be dealing with back issues, but that may become a problem. And then the Giants are left with Doval, who is filling the strike zone with strikes to start the season, so not a bad second option. But let's hope that Ryan Walker's doing okay. All right, a scan of the major leagues. A news bulletin out of Cincinnati. Nathan Eovaldi pitched a 4-hitter for the Majors' first complete game of the season, and the Texas Rangers blanked the Cincinnati Reds 1-0 on Tuesday night. The right-hander threw 99 pitches, 70 for strikes. So that's how the story started. First, thank you for not calling it a complete game shutout, which most baseball writers and observers do. I mean, that's a complete game shutout. A shutout is a complete game. But also, go ahead and call it a 4-hit shutout. Nathan Eovaldi pitched the Major League's first complete game of the season, a 4-hit shutout. That's all you had to do. Also, note that he didn't get over the 100-pitch barrier. We all know that after 100 pitches, he would have been long gone. So he had to sneak in a complete game under 100 pitches. Mickey Lolich, if you remember him, the great lefty for the Detroit Tigers, once threw 376 innings in a year. He must be laughing out loud when he sees reporters asking Eovaldi for the secret sauce of a complete game, treating him as if he's an oracle of sorts. Eovaldi said, quote, "I think it was the first pitch strikes," when he was asked what made him so efficient. "But also the off-speed pitches. I was able to get some quick outs, and I didn't really have many deep counts. And not walking guys helps." Okay, well, that was great insight, Nathan. And I'm hoping that other pitchers follow in suit, and maybe managers pay attention. But don't try to get a complete game in anything over 100 pitches. The Rangers won 1-0 again the next day. But this was no ace throwing a masterpiece. It was a rookie throwing 5 one-hit scoreless, but closing shop at 70 pitches, then a parade of faceless, nameless relievers to close it out. Did you see that Martin Perez of the White Sox was taken out with a no-hitter after 6 innings last week? He'd thrown 93 pitches. Would someone just tell baseball the 100-pitch count limit is a canard? Just a round number that sounds good but has little correlation to injury? Then there was Red Sox pitcher Garrett Crochet, who had a 4-hit shutout through 8 innings Wednesday. He walked only one batter. He's leading 3-0, so no stress, no problem. You got this. But because he'd hit 102 on the pitch count, Boston manager Alex Cora takes him out. And Aroldis Chapman, thankfully, closed for the save. But there are plenty of those games where the bullpen blows it. Well, you heard what I was talking about with the Rockies earlier. I'll grant it's early and maybe pitchers are trying to increase their workload, but I'm highly skeptical that this will change as the season goes on. I wanted to refer back to the max-out mentality that Bob Melvin raised when he was talking about telling Jordan Hicks to go as hard and as long as he can. There are great results for Hicks, no doubt, but is this sustainable? The max-out mentality is where the majority of injuries are coming from. People, including major league managers and executives, should read the Major League report on pitchers' arm injuries that came out just before New Year's this year. That report cited the max-out mentality as the biggest drivers to arm injuries in baseball. All right, I'm going to do one other Did You Know segment. Did you know this podcast has roots of sorts? I was a broadcast student back in the early 80s at San Francisco State University, did play-by-play of all the major sports, including baseball at Maloney Field, where we broadcast from a table set up in the back of the rickety wooden bleachers on the third base side, had dreams of someday stepping in the same chair as Lon Simmons to do the Giants games. But I'm sure John Miller and Dave Fleming are good enough for you all. This reminds me of working in the podcast work I'm doing. Reminds me of the work I used to do in studio on sports reports I filed. The radio station was called KSFS. It still is. I just went through a virtual tour through the station as it is now. Let's just say I roamed with the dinosaurs when I did my radio work compared with the high-tech facilities they have now. They even have a dedicated podcast studio. Back then, we had a UPI Newswire teletype machine that would spit out sports and news from across the country. We'd be ready to go on air, but would always check the wire to see if we needed to report late breaking news. So yes, sometimes we would literally rip and read. All right, that's all I have for today. Thank you for tuning in to Sacramento's Curveballs and Changeups with me, your host, Steve Harmon. You can find Sacramento's best baseball podcast on Apple Tunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and wherever else you can listen to podcasts. Please hit the subscribe button so you can get notified when my next podcast is up. Until next time, lay off the slider low and away.